I'm trying not to be too nervous for this video because I'm like, I don't want anybody coming for me because I'm dropping series that are their favorites. Hello friends, happy Wednesday. So very excited that you're here. I am diving into the top 5 manga that I have dropped very recently and I feel really nervous. So shout out to my Patreon and channel members for this prompt idea. If you would like to give prompts for Wednesdays and just see behind the scenes like videos, give input on things, check out the sign up link down below. Plus I'm really nervous about today's prompt. I really push it off to the last minute because I am not a huge fan of sharing things that I drop because I don't want anybody else to feel like, oh my goodness, Laura just dropped my favorite series. She probably hated it and I'm really mad. Like, I don't want to make anybody mad. And I was like, maybe I should do a disclaimer saying that everything that I dropped and sold, I didn't hate any of these things. You're not going to find this video to be a hate video of like, these things suck, they're horrible. No, that is not the kind of video that this will be. I'm not like that. Actually, everything that I did drop, I have reasons for. And outside of one that I wasn't very fond of, all of them were good reads. All of them were good reads. So please keep that in mind as we move forward, especially, I guess, with number 1. Let's go ahead and do this one. This is sort of an older manga, and that is Odan. I sold all volumes to a friend of mine. Now, here's the thing. I love the beginning of Odan. I read volumes, 1 through 5? 1 through 3? I know for certain I've read volumes 1 through 3. I read volumes 1 through 5 like a year ago, loved every single volume, thought it was amazing, was really excited to keep reading but didn't for some reason. And then I came back to it because me and my friend Maeve at Maeve Ever Manga, we decided to do a buddy read of it. I read the first volume, really enjoyed it, read the second volume, okay, I'm like, this is good. Volume 3, things with the mom, maybe it was volume 2, really upset me this time around. I was worried how the rest of the series was gonna go because I'm like, I love what I've read, but I don't know if I can commit to 17 volumes of this same running jokes and the same running things, even though it wasn't bad. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna read what I have read, which again was about 1 through 3, and then I'm gonna skip to the end to see how it ends, to see if I can handle reading the rest of the series. I read the end, loved the end, and felt very content. So content that I didn't feel like I wanted to come back and read the middle or reread the beginning. And that was actually why I ended up selling it, because I have made it a new personal rule that anything I have to reread it again at some point, or at least I have that desire to reread it again. I did not feel that way with Odan, and I really felt it would be more important to me to hand it off to a friend and maybe that they would love the series more and reread it again in the future. I wanted it for all of these, honestly, to be in a happier home where they could be loved and appreciated in the way that I love and appreciate the series that I have, in the sense that I am rereading them. Because again, that's just something really important to me, and that's why I haven't as much recently, but I usually try to rearrange my manga at least once a week, that I'm touching everything that I own so that I know what I have, that I'm familiar with it, and I'm like, okay, this makes me really excited, this is what I really, really love. And so I want that for Odan. I want somebody else to appreciate it and to love the series, and I hope that she does. I don't know if she's read it yet, but that was sort of my, I guess, rundown on Odan and why I decided to sell it off. For number 2, I decided to let go of Gap Papa. Now, I have gushed about this series before, and it probably sounds really shocking that I did decide to let this series go. Was it bad? No. I didn't love Volume 3, and Volume 3 actually did influence that. I was like, you know, I'm gonna let this go. I love Volume 1. Volume 1 is still one of my favorites. In fact, it was actually one of the few shoujo manga that I have not sold yet. I'm debating of just keeping that one because that one was my favorite. But the reason I decided to let this go is because I love slice of life shoujo manga. Preferably even like more when there's no romance in my slice of life manga, like Mr. Villain's Day Off and Play It Cool Guys. And I bring those two up because between those two and Gap Papa, I was like, I've got to cut it down because these manga are expensive. They're like $15 and up, or at least $15. And I'm like, I can't keep collecting all of them because there's other manga I want more. And so what I tend to do is, even if I loved the volumes that I read and it's still an amazing series, I would still highly recommend it. I decide to let it go so I personally would not be tempted to keep buying volumes, because I can't just have things on my shelf that are uncompleted. If I love it, then I'm like, well, you got to keep going. And that can add up when you're feeling that way about a lot of different series. And so that one, unfortunately, I did decide to cut because ultimately, while I really, really love volumes 1 and 2, I love the family-oriented story. Volume 3, I felt was just too romantic for what I wanted from this series. I don't want the romance. I'm not here for that. I'm here for the family shenanigans. And so originally I was actually going to cut Mr. Villain's Day Off, but then then the latest volume sold me even more, and I loved it very, very much. I mean, I already loved the volumes. Again, I loved all of these. But when it came down to it, I'm like, I don't want more romance in Cat Papa. I want the family, which sounds really funny to say, but like I did realize, like with Play Cool Guys, I love that there's no romance in that story. I don't want any of these guys to get with anybody, okay? I want them to be single and have all the fun shenanigans. I just really, really like that. I love seeing the friendships play out. And so Cat Papa, unfortunately, where I felt it was going more of a romantic direction, and somebody can come back and nicely tell me, like, Laura, you shouldn't have dropped it because it went back to the family vibes, because only the opening chapter was the only one that was really, volume 3 was the only really family-oriented chapter. And you'd be like, well, they have all that back in volume 4. And if they do that, is great. I'm not going to rebuy the series. I already told myself, no. So that was my reasoning behind dropping that, because I did get a DM of like, why are you dropping this? I thought you loved it, and I do. I still do. But when it came to the other slice of life manga that I have, I love those more. For number 3, I'm going to say Sweets for Sweets and Foreigners. This is the only one on the list that I just didn't love, and I'm really, really sad because I don't ultimately know why. I have nothing bad to say about this manga. Like, it was not bad at all. It was good, but I did not vibe with it. I don't know if it's because the day I got it, that there was a lot going on. I was really stressed at that time, but I wanted to read it because I was stressed. And I was like, this is right up my alley. I love the main female lead, how she has a lot of fantasies inspired by shoujo manga, really wants a shoujo manga like romance, has the office workplace kind of romance and everything, and has sweets involved. But even when I forced myself to finish reading it, actually I just like flipped through the second half, I had no desire to come back to this volume. I don't know why. And I know that probably sounds sort of weird, but I don't have anything bad to say, and I don't know why I didn't click with this. So it went off to a good friend of mine, and I'm excited for her because I think she's really going to like it, and I'm excited that this manga is going to someone who I feel will love it, because I don't know why I didn't, and I keep seeing friends that have read it. In fact, one of my friends just did on Twitter, she did a review of it, and she really enjoyed it, and I'm just like, why didn't I click with this? Maybe it's just I gotta come back at another time. I really don't know. I loved the end because somebody brought up how it was very different, and I'm like, yes. I'm like, girl, everything you're saying, I agree with you. I don't have anything negative to say. Just at the end of the day, it wasn't for me, and I decided to unhaul it, unfortunately. For number 4, Even Dogs Go to Other Worlds. Now, I loved volume 1, I love volume 2, and I did really like volume 3. Ultimately, I feel like I decided to let this one go because even though I really love every volume that I read, I don't have plans to come back to it. Like, I've never picked it up again after I read it the first time. So I feel like this is one that I would love for my library to get, because I would love to keep going. It's a very chill isekai story that has dogs, and I really love that element of the story. And I feel like volume 4 is actually entering to the thing I wanted the most, and that was romance. I mean, I don't know that for certain. It's very, I think, gonna be slow burn when it comes to the romance, but I love the story. It's very chill. It's a very fun and great story. No high stakes really, and the art's nice, but it was just something I felt like was becoming increasingly lower on my priority list of things that I wanted to buy and pre-order. And typically, if I'm not feeling that I need to pre-order it, then usually I know that's a sign, like, well, I should say, where I must have this thing. Then usually I know that that means I no longer really want to read that manga, or at least in the sense of compared to other things I'm buying. Now again, if my library had this, yes, I would be all over volume 4 and reading it, because that is how much I did enjoy it. But I'm excited for the person who took this off my hands. I really hope they like it because they really enjoy isekai, and I don't know if this has anything like different when it comes to other isekai and the genre as a whole, except for the dogs, which was great. But it's just one of those series that's really nice to read at the end of the day to help decompress. I think it's a really good decompress kind of story. And so I confess, I was a little bit sad after I sent it, because I'm like, I feel like this is actually one of this list that I could see myself rebuying because of how much I did enjoy these volumes. But again, since I never felt that urge to reread it, I just felt like, okay, then it's got to go. If I don't feel excited to reread it again, or at least I don't catch myself thinking, you know, it's about that time I need to reread this story, even though I always remember what happened at the previous volume and didn't need to reread, I just felt that spoke a lot to me. So I hope it's in another new and better home as well. Hopefully in the future I won't be like, you know what, I'm just gonna rebuy it. Because that would be pretty funny. I could see honestly myself doing that out of everything from this list today. But I guess I saved the most hardest one for last, and that is Sugar Apple Fairy Tale, the manga. I know so many people who love this manga, and I enjoyed it. I had a lot of mixed feelings when it came to Anne in volume 1 and how I felt like she was consistently trying to justify her actions. And I'm like, okay, whatever, I get it, I get it. I get it. You don't have to tell me over and over to try and convince me, the reader, to be okay with your actions. I really liked volume 2 a lot more. The problems I have with volume 1 were addressed in volume 2. But I don't know, I just didn't have the same excitement to come back to the series. And I had actually thought about giving it away last year. And I was like, no, let me hold on to it for a little bit longer. And then I never came back to it. So I put it aside and it was like, oh yeah, I forgot I put this aside kind of thing. So I like the characters and I love the fan art that I see of this series and the pens that I see of this series. It makes me very happy to see, especially because it's so well loved. But I just felt like I didn't have a strong desire to come back and don't feel like a lot of excitement for volume 3 to release, even though it's already out in Japan. But I sort of feel maybe that I could see myself coming back to this one if somebody sold me really hard on it, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of what else I could say, but I don't know. This one, I didn't feel really excited, but not really unexcited either. It felt, for me, not the manga itself, but I felt like I was really middle of the road about it. I was like, well, if you're feeling that, then I'm like, yeah, it's time to hand this off. Like, somebody out there loves this series 10 times more than you do and is looking for these volumes, and you need to give it to that person. And I'm excited for the person who did get volume 2 and volume 1. It was 2 different people. I'm like, yeah, I really feel like both of them will love it, especially since I know one of them loved the anime a lot. And so I'm excited that it's in a better home, because ultimately I feel like that series needed to be given justice by me in the sense of it needs to be somewhere else. It needs to be more appreciated than how it was on my shelf, because I just don't feel like I had this blooming excitement for the story, which is weird because I know when it was digital only and the chapters were just releasing, me and my friend Mar reads manga, we both loved it. And then we both came back to it and when it physically released, and both of us felt very differently. And so I've just sort of been stuck in that ever since I've had these 2 volumes, even though I don't think the story is bad. And I feel like the story got more engaging in volume 2 and would be curious to see where it goes in volume 3. But it's another series I'm not racing to pick up physically or to like have in my hands desperately, where I'm checking Yen Press's website or Amazon, seeing when the next volume is going to release, like I am with Fiancé Chosen by the Ring. Yes, I have been doing that for, was it volume 6? But yeah, so I decided to let that one go as well, even though I feel really bad. And like, so I'm so sorry if any of these picks have, like, knowing that they're gone, have hurt anybody's feelings. Again, ultimately, I want these to have better homes. I wanted them to be more appreciated than they are by me, because manga is awesome. And I want these manga specifically to be so well loved, and they were not being super well loved by me. So therefore they need better homes than what I have. No, I don't have an honorable mention this week because I was just too nervous to have 6 picks. So I just stuck with the 5. Hopefully though, you still enjoyed this video, even if one of your favorites was, you know, sold off to somebody else. I still hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching. Bye!